Good morning, and welcome to our Memorial Day Chapel. At Girard College, we honor those who lost their lives in service to our country. On the west side of Founders Hall is a monument honoring those Girard College students who served in the Union, the North Side, during the Civil War. 164 boys from Girard fought in that war. Sadly, 625,000 Americans were killed in that war, more than all the other wars America has been involved in combined. 29 of those who died were young men who attended Girard College. In his will, Stephen Girard said, "I desire that by every proper means, a pure attachment to our republic institutions and to the sacred rights of conscience, as guaranteed by our happy constitutions, shall be formed and fostered in the minds of the scholars." In other words, he expected the students to respect the rights that living in America afforded them, and he expected them to be willing to fight for those rights, even to the point of laying down their lives. That is why we honor them today. On the east side of Founders Hall is a memorial honoring those who fought in World War I, which took place between 1914 and 1918, World War II, which took place between 1939 and 1945, the Korean War between 1950 and 1953, and the Vietnam conflict, which took place between 1961 and 1973. This sculpture was created by R. Tate McKenzie and dedicated in 1932. Originally, it was located in the courtyard between Merchant and Mariner Halls and honored those alumni that died in World War I. Later, the inscriptions honoring those who died in World War II were added to the base, and it was moved to its current position and rededicated on Founders Day 1946. The statue has a female figure dressed in long classical robes standing behind a young male figure who kneels in front of her. Her right hand rests on his shoulder. Her left hand holds a floral wreath. The kneeling male figure holds a sword with one hand on the bottom of the sword and one hand at the top. His head is raised and he faces up to the sky. The woman represents the United States of America, ready to honor the young men with the floral wreath, like they honored the Olympians in the ancient Olympics. The young man, a soldier, holding his weapon, gazes heavenward, his eternal reward for his ultimate sacrifice. These monuments honor those who have fought our freedoms, our rights, and our liberties. It is a fight that will never end. As Abraham Lincoln said, "It is for us, the living, rather to be dedicated here
to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they here gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain. That this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people,
for
the people,
shall not perish from the earth. To them we say, we'll not forget you till our hearts be still.
Today is the day we put aside to remember fallen heroes and to pray that no heroes will ever have to die for us again. It's a day of thanks for the valor of others, a day to remember the splendor of America and those of her children who rest in this cemetery and others. Arlington, this place of so many memories, is a fitting place for some remembering. So many wonderful men and women rest here. Men and women who led colorful, vivid, and passionate lives. Well, all of these men were different, but they shared this in common. They loved America very much. There was nothing they wouldn't do for it, and they loved with the sureness of the young. It's hard not to think of the young in a place like this, for it's the young who do the fighting and dying when a peace fails and a war begins. Not far from here is the statue of the 3 servicemen, the 3 fighting boys of Vietnam. It too has majesty and more. Perhaps you've seen it. 3 rough boys walking together, looking ahead with a steady gaze. There's something wounded about them, a kind of resigned toughness, but there's an unexpected tenderness too. At first you don't really notice, but then you see it. The 3 are touching each other as if they're supporting each other, helping each other on. They were quite a group, the boys of Vietnam, boys who fought a terrible and vicious war without enough support from home, boys who were dodging bullets while we debated the efficacy of the battle. It was often our poor who fought in that war. It was the unpampered boys of the working class who picked up the rifles and went on the march. They learned not to rely on us. They learned to rely on each other. And they were special in another way. They chose to be faithful. They chose to reject the fashionable skepticism of their time. They chose to believe and answer the call of duty. They had the wild, wild courage of youth. They seized certainty from the heart of an ambivalent age. They stood for something, and we owe them something. Those boys, we owe them first a promise that just as they did not forget their missing comrades, neither ever will we. And there are other promises. We must always remember that peace is a fragile thing that needs constant vigilance. We owe them a promise to look at the world with a steady gaze and perhaps a resigned toughness, knowing that we have adversaries in the world and challenges, and the only way to meet them and maintain the peace is by staying strong. That, of course, is the lesson of this century, a lesson learned in the Sudetenland, in Poland, in Hungary, in Czechoslovakia, in Cambodia. If we really care about peace, we must stay strong. If we really care about peace, we must, through our strength, demonstrate our unwillingness to accept an ending of the peace. We must be strong enough to create peace where it does not exist, and strong enough to protect it where it does. That's the lesson of this century, and I think of this day, to leave this great place to its peace, a peace it has earned. Thank all of you, and God bless you, and have a day full of memories.